November 25, 1942, 0630 hours. The rugged slopes of Chwigwi Pass, Tunisia. Dust hangs thick in the air like a shroud, kicked up by the grinding tracks of American M3 Stuart light tanks rumbling through the pre-dawn haze. You can almost taste the metallic tang of exhaust mixed with the sharp bite of North African sand. Feel the bone-jarring vibrations as Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters grips the edge of his command hatch, scanning the shadowed valleys ahead. His men, the grizzled tankers of Company C, 1st Battalion, 1st Armored Regiment, Combat Command B, peer through periscopes, hearts pounding in rhythm with the Honeywell engines whining beneath them. No one speaks above a whisper the enemy is close. Axis forces digging in after the Allied landings of Operation Torch just weeks ago. Waters, a tall Texan with a no-nonsense mustache, squints into the gloom. Intelligence reports whisper of German panzers from the 10th Panzer Division lurking near by formidable Panzer Es and IVS. Their long-barreled 50mm and 75mm guns capable of punching through anything the Yanks have thrown at them so far. But Waters' outfit, 17 Stuarts, each no bigger than a delivery truck, armed with a puny 37mm cannon that snaps like a firecracker compared to the thunder of German ordnance. Honey tanks, the Brits call them, after their sweet-handling radial engines. To the Germans, though, just toys. Scattered reports from captured Wehrmacht officers filter back. Laughter in the mess tents. Derisive snorts over maps. Amerikanische Spielzeug. They scoff American playthings. Unfit for the brutal chessboard of desert warfare. The column snakes forward, olive drab hulls camouflaged in hasty daubs of sand-colored paint, kicking up plumes that swirl like ghosts in the rising sun. Sergeant Bill Hayes, loader in Waters' lead tank, wipes sweat from his brow despite the chill. He's thinking of home, of Texas barbecues, but the crackle of the radio snaps him back. Contact ahead. Kraut patrols spotted. Tension coils like a spring. These men, fresh from stateside training, know the odds. The Stuart's armor is thin, barely an inch at its thickest, vulnerable to anything heavier than a rifle round. But speed, that's their ace. 40 miles per hour on flat ground, agile as a jackrabbit. Waters banks on it, across the pass, in a makeshift command post dug into the rocky hillside. Oberst-Lieutenant Rudolf Lang of the 5th Panzer Regiment sips Ersatz coffee, his binoculars trained on the distant horizon. His unit, veterans of Rommel's Afrika Korps, has been rushed to Tunisia to stem the Allied tide. Reports from scouts describe the approaching Americans. Light tanks, undersized, undergunned. Lang chuckles to his adjutant, a young lieutenant fresh from the Eastern Front. Look at them, scurrying like mice. Those M3 South. We could crush them under our tracks. His men nod, smirk spreading. They've faced T-34s in Russia, KV-1 behemoths that shrug off hits. These, mere nuisances. Lang issues orders. Hold the high ground, let the Americans come. His Panzer IVS, with their upgraded long 75mm KWK-40 guns, sit hull down, engines idling, crews confident in their steel fortresses, back in the American line. Private First Class Tom Riley, gunner in a trailing Stuart, adjusts his sights. He's heard the mockery through the grapevine Axis propaganda leaflets fluttering down like confetti, ridiculing the tin cans the Yanks dare call tanks. It stings, but Riley grits his teeth. These boys aren't here for glory. They're here to push the Nazis back to the sea. The sun crests the ridge now, bathing the pass in golden light, revealing the glint of German barrels in the distance. Waters' voice cuts through the intercom. Form up. We're going in hot. The first shots ring out sharp cracks from German 88mm flak guns repurposed as anti-tank weapons, shells whistling overhead like banshees. A Stuart at the flank erupts in flame, its thin turret spinning off like a discarded hat. Screams pierce the air, acrid smoke billowing. But Waters doesn't flinch. He signals the advance, Stuart darting forward in a zigzag, using the terrain's folds for cover. The Germans, perched on their vantage, fire methodically, expecting a rout. One Panzer commander, binoculars raised, laughs outright as a Stuart bounces harmlessly off a rock. its 37mm round pinging off a Panzer E's frontal plate like a pebble. Kinderwagen? He shouts baby carriages. Yet amid the chaos, something shifts. The Stuarts don't break. They swarm, engines roaring, closing the gap faster than the Germans anticipate. Riley's tank leaps a ditch, hull rattling, as he traverses his gun. A German half-track explodes in a shower of debris, caught off guard by the Americans' audacity. Lang's smirk fades slightly. His radio buzzes with urgent reports. These toys are moving too quick. Flanking positions thought secure. The battle ignites in earnest, dust clouds swallowing the pass like a storm. Waters pushes his men harder, exploiting every wadi and hillock. But, as the sun climbs higher, a chilling realization dawns on the Americans. The Germans are regrouping, their heavier armor rolling down to meet them head-on. One wrong move, and this could turn into a slaughter. What happens when the mice bite back? 647 hours. The floor of WWII Pass erupts into a maelstrom of tracer fire and burning magnesium. You're inside Lieutenant Colonel Waters' command tank now, the air thick with cordite and the coppery smell of fear. The turret is a sweat box, the intercom alive with clipped, urgent voices. Driver, hard left now. Waters snaps, the Stuart lurches, track screaming, as an 88mm shell detonates exactly where they were a heartbeat earlier. Dirt and stone rain on the open hatch like hail. On the ridge above, Oberst Lieutenant Lang's amusement is curdling into something colder. His forward observers are shouting into radios. The Americans aren't charging blindly. They're splitting, weaving, disappearing into folds of ground he thought were dead space. 17 light tanks have suddenly become 30 ghostly silhouettes, popping up where no tank should be. Lang slams a fist on the map table. They're flanking the entire battery. Where are our Panzer IVs? They're coming, but too late and too slow. The long-barreled cats are designed for deliberate, hold-down killing grounds, not for chasing jackrabbits across broken wadis. Waters knows this. Every second, he keeps the Germans reacting instead of dictating. The odds tilt a fraction in his favor. Inside Sergeant Hayes' tank, the loader is a blur. 37mm round in, casing out, brass clattering across the floor like coins in a slot machine. Gunner Riley traverses frantically, picks a target, a Panzer III trying to swing its turret toward the American flood. Riley's first round ricochets off the mantlet with a shower of sparks. Second round, high explosive this time, punches straight through the thinner side armor behind the turret ring. The Panzer III belches flame. Its commander claws at the hatch, uniform on fire, before the ammunition cooks off in a thunderclap that echoes off the hills. The Germans feel it now, that sickening lurch in the gut when the prey refuses to die. One of Lang's company commanders, Hauptmann Werner, watches in disbelief as 3 Stuarts crest a dune no sane tank commander would attempt. Airborne for a terrifying second, then crash down behind his position. Their machine guns rake the soft-skinned vehicles clustered there, fuel Bowsers, ammunition trucks, a field kitchen still ladling out breakfast. Secondary explosions ripple like firecrackers on Chinese New Year. Black smoke coils into the sky, a signal fire the entire 10th Panzer can read. Waters' voice is calm steel over the radio. C Company. Execute Plan Foxhound. Hit them where they breathe. It's not a real plan, just a code phrase he made up 10 minutes ago. But his crews know exactly what it means. Don't stop. Don't bunch up. Keep moving. Keep shooting. The Stuarts flow like water around boulders, finding the gaps the heavier German armor can't plug fast enough. A German lieutenant in a half-track screams orders, trying to swing an MG-42 toward the darting Americans. Too late. A Stuart slides sideways in a perfect bootlegger turn, 37mm barking twice. The half-track becomes a flaming coffin. The lieutenant's last sight is the grinning white star on an olive drab bow rushing straight at him. Lang's command half-track rocks from a near miss. Shrapnel pings off the armor. His adjutant is pale. Herr Oberst Lieutenant. They're inside the artillery perimeter. Lang stares at the chaos unfolding below. His proud 75mm guns, the terror of every battlefield from France to Russia, are being overrun by tanks he dismissed as jokes. Gunners abandon their pieces, sprinting for cover that doesn't exist. One brave soul tries to depress an 88 low enough to engage. A Stuart rams the trail spades, crushing the gun's elevation gear, then pumps 3 rounds point blank into the shield. The 88 becomes a smoking monument to overconfidence. Waters tastes blood. He's bitten his lip without noticing. His driver is grinning like a madman, steering by instinct now, weaving through burning wreckage. The colonel keys the mic. All units, rally point green 2. We've got their attention. Now we make them bleed for it. But even as the Americans surge, the desert gives a warning growl. Heavy engines, deeper, angrier than anything the Stuarts can muster. The first of the 10th Panzer's Reserve Company has finally arrived. 6 Panzer for AUSF. Geez, long guns hungry, rolling down the reverse slope like steel avalanches. The hunter has become the hunted. Or has he? 709 hours. The temperature inside the Stuarts is climbing past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. But nobody feels it anymore. Adrenaline is a better drug than fear. 6 Panzer Ives crest the ridge in perfect line abreast, space like Prussian parade ground, sun glinting off their Scherzen side skirts. To the German crews, this is the moment of restoration, the natural order reasserting itself. 80 tons of long 75mm death against 17 toys. They advance at a deliberate 15 kph, turrets traversing with aristocratic slowness. Certain the Americans will break and run. They don't. Waters sees them first. His stomach drops, but his voice stays flat. All stations. This is Charlie 6. Reverse slope defense. Now, use the waddy bed. Draw them in. It's suicide by every textbook he ever read at Fort Knox. But textbooks never fought with 37mm pop guns against 75mm SLEDGEHAMMERS. The Stuarts vanish. 1 second, they're there, darting through smoke. The next they've melted into a dry riverbed the Germans dismissed as impassable. The Panzer for Commander's curse. Their drivers crawl forward, cautious now. The ridge that gave them godlike vision now blinds them. Every fold in the earth could hide a buzzing hornet. Inside a Panzer for named Lux, Feldwebel Kurt Spiegel hunches over his gunner's sight. He's killed T-34s at the kilometers. These Americans should be child's play. Yet the targeting reticule finds only burning half-tracks and empty sand. Where are the bastards? He mutters. His commander, Oberleutnant von Heffen, snaps, "Keep moving. They can't hurt us." Famous last words. 50 meters away, hidden by a sand drift, Sergeant Hayes' tank idles with engine throttled low. Hayes is counting heartbeats. Riley, the gunner, has his eye glued to the sight. Wait for it, wait. The lead Panzer for rolls past their hide. Broadside, belly exposed like a whale. Distance, 30 yards. Now, the Stuart lunges out of the wadi like a jack-in-the-box from hell. First 37mm round smashes into the Panzer, the 4th drive sprocket, jams the track, brings the beast to a grinding halt. Second round punches through the thin lower side plate. Third round finds the ammunition ready racks. Lux disappears in a blinding orange flash. Turret blown 20 feet into the air, raining molten steel. The desert explodes into a dozen separate duels. This is no longer a battle. It's a bar fight in a phone booth. Stuarts pop up, fire 3 or 4 rounds at point-blank range into engine decks and vision slits, then vanish before the heavier German turrets can traverse. German crews scream over intercoms, disoriented, firing at shadows. One Panzer for Commander stands in his cupola, pistol in hand, trying to spot the Americans with naked eye. Because the smoke is too thick for optics, a .30 caliber machine gun burst stitches across his chest. He topples backward into the turret, blood spraying the breech. Waters' own tank is hit, hard. A 75mm airburst peppers the turret with shrapnel. The driver screams. Blood pours from his scalp. Waters drags him down, takes the controls himself, left hand on the tillers, right hand still clutching the radio. Keep moving. Damn it. They can't hit what they can't catch. And they almost can't. A second Panzer for dies when 2 Stuarts catch it reversing. One shoots the tracks, The other climbs the rear deck like a monkey and fires straight down through the thin engine cover. The crew bails out, running, only to be cut down by coaxial machine guns. The smell of burning flesh drifts across the battlefield, sweet and sickening. But the Germans are veterans for a reason. One panzer for commander, Lieutenant Richter, refuses the chaos. He buttons up, orders his driver to halt, and waits. Just waits. 10 seconds, 20. Then a steward darts across his front at 90 meters, too greedy. Richter's gunner has the shot. The 75mm speaks once. The steward simply ceases to exist. Turret cartwheeling end over end, burning crewmen tumbling like dolls. Richter keys his throat mic. Voice ice cold. All units, halt advance. Form hedgehog. They want knife range. We'll gut them. The remaining 4 Panzer Ives lock tracks. Swing into a tight box, muzzles facing outward. Invulnerable from the front. Overlapping fields of fire. A steel fortress in the middle of hell. The stewards circle like wolves around a dying bison, searching for a gap that isn't there. One gets too close. Richter's tank claims it with a single shot. Another tries to climb the wreckage for a downward shot and is blasted off like a fly. Waters watches through smoke-streaked binoculars, knuckles white. He's down to 11 tanks. Ammunition is running low. The sun is fully up now, turning the battlefield into a frying pan. He has 1 card left. 721 hours. The desert holds its breath. 11 stewards prowl the smoke at a distance. Engines throttled back to a predator's growl. Inside Waters' tank the radio crackles with ragged breathing. No one wastes words anymore. The colonel's face is streaked black with burnt powder, eyes bloodshot but burning. He keys the mic once, low and deliberate. Listen up. 1 shot, boys. Then we vanish. On my mark, across the killing ground, Lieutenant Richter smiles without humor inside his steel box. The circling Americans are cautious now, chastened. He can almost hear their courage leaking away with every passing minute. Fuel state good, ammunition plentiful. Let the mice tire themselves out. He never sees the 12th steward. It was written off 20 minutes ago. Sergeant Bill Hayes' tank, belly ripped open by an 88, crew presumed dead. Except Hayes and Riley dragged the wounded driver clear, patched a ruptured fuel line with chewing gum and prayer, and limped their crippled honey into a deep wadi half a mile east. They've been crawling ever since, engine off half the time, coasting on momentum and desperation, hugging every scrap of dead ground. Now Hayes' tank creeps up the reverse slope behind the German square, moving at walking pace, radiator boiling, oil smoke trailing like a giveaway ribbon. Riley stands in the loader's hatch, 1 arm hooked around the 37mm barrel to keep balance, the other cradling the last armor-piercing round they own hand-loaded from a dead tank. Distance to the nearest Panzer IV, 200 yards. 150. The German rear sentinel finally spots them. His turret begins to traverse, agonizingly slow. To late. Riley screams something incoherent, part curse, part prayer, and slams the round home. The 37mm fires at point blank into the thin engine deck of Richter's own command tank. The shell doesn't penetrate cleanly. It doesn't have to. It ruptures fuel lines, ignites oil, turns the engine compartment into an inferno. Secondary explosions ripple as the ready racks cook off. Richter's Panzer IV becomes a Roman candle. For 1 frozen second, the remaining 3 German commanders stare at their burning leader, unable to process that a dead tank has come back to life and bitten them in the ass. That second is all Waters needs. Now, the ring of stewards explodes inward from every direction at once. Throttles firewalled. They don't aim for frontal armor anymore. They aim for chaos. 1 rams a Panzer for broadside, tracks locking, shoving the heavier tank sideways so another steward can dart in and hammer the exposed flank. Machine guns rake vision slits, forcing commanders to button up and fight blind. A 3rd steward slides to a halt directly in front of a German muzzle, suicidal range. But the German gunner, half blind with smoke and panic, elevates to high. The steward's 37mm answers first, punching through the thinner turret roof. Inside the cauldron, German voices rise in pitch. No longer calm professionals, but terrified men realizing the rules just changed. One Panzerfor tries to reverse out. Its track is shot away by a steward that appears out of nowhere. Another spins in circles, commander screaming for the driver, who no longer answers. Richter, burning alive, claws his way out of the cupola. He stands atop his dying tank for 3 full seconds, uniform on fire. Metals molten, staring at the impossible swarm of American light tanks tearing his command apart. Then a .50 caliber round from Waters' own tank takes him between the eyes. He falls backward into the flames without a sound. 07 to 8 hours. For Panzer IVS entered the Wadi mouth 20 minutes ago. 0 Vid intact. The surviving stewards, 9 now, sit scattered among the burning hulks, engines ticking as they cool, crews standing in hatches, staring at what they've done. Some laugh in disbelief, some weep, most just stare, to hollowed out for anything else. Waters climbs down from his tank on legs that barely work. He walks through the wreckage, past German crewmen on their knees with hands raised, past the chart thing that used to be Lieutenant Richter. He stops at the edge of the wadi and lights a cigarette with shaking hands. Behind him, Sergeant Hayes limps up, face blackened, uniform scorched. He offers a tired salute that turns into a grin. Still think they're toys, Colonel. Waters exhales smoke toward the climbing sun. Not anymore. Far above, the first American war correspondent plane buzzes overhead, cameras rolling. The footage will reach eyes in Hauer's desk by nightfall. The myth of German invincibility in the desert just took its first mortal wound, delivered by 17 toys that refused to die. And somewhere, in a smoky officer's mess in Tripoli, a very quiet German general will pour himself a large drink and stop laughing at American tanks. The legend-born 0800 hours. The smoke over WWII Pass hangs like a funeral pall, thick enough to choke the sun. Lieutenant Colonel John Waters stands on the turret of his battered Stuart, cigarette long gone cold between his fingers, staring at the impossible graveyard his company has made. 9 tanks left, 43 German vehicles burning or abandoned, over 200 prisoners sitting in the sand with their hands on their heads, faces gray with shock. The 10th Panzer Division's first serious counterattack in Tunisia has just been gutted by light tanks everyone said were obsolete before they left the factory. A jeep skids to a halt beside him. Out climbs Brigadier General Robinette, commander of Combat Command B, eyes wide behind dust-caked goggles. He came expecting to find the remnants of a massacre, American remnants. Instead, he finds silence and the smell of victory. Robinette walks the killing ground slowly, boots crunching on shattered glass and brass casings. He stops beside the still smoldering hulk of Richter's Panzer IV, stares at the perfect 37mm hole punched through the engine deck from above, then looks at Waters. "John," he says quietly, "you just rewrote the damn book." Word spreads faster than the fires. By noon, British liaison officers are begging for details. By nightfall, the story is crackling across every Allied frequency from Algiers to Cairo. The WWII miracle, the day the M3 Stuart stopped being a joke and became a legend. In Washington, a War Department press release hits the wires. U.S. light tanks rout crack German Panzer unit in daring dawn action. The photographs are devastating, close-ups of burned out Panzer IVS with tiny 37mm entry holes circled in white grease pencil. American tankers grinning like devils atop the carcasses of their kills. Back in Germany, the propaganda ministry scrambles. Goebbels himself pens a furious memo. Under no circumstances is the phrase American light tanks to appear beside the word victory in any official communique. Too late. Captured German diaries seized days later all say the same thing in shaken handwriting. Die kleinen Teufel, the little devils. Waters gets a silver star and a quiet bottle of bourbon from Robinette. Hayes and Riley are recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. The citation will simply read, "For gallantry beyond the call of duty while operating a tank previously declared destroyed," but the real reward comes weeks later. At a dusty crossroads near Fade Pass, a column of fresh M3 south from the replacement depot rolls past a battered 10th Panzer reconnaissance unit forced to withdraw. The German commander, a scarred Hauptmann who survived WWII, watches the American tanks go by. One steward slows. The commander, a kid from Ohio, leans out and waves cheerfully. The German stares at the white star on the bow, then at the 37mm snout that looks so harmless in the sunlight. He doesn't laugh. He salutes. And somewhere, in every motor pool, classroom, and bar from Fort Knox to El Alamein, tankers who used to curse the damn coffin on tracks start painting new names on their turrets. His ghost little devil Quigui Special M3 Stewart never becomes a tiger killer. It never needs to. It has already done something far more dangerous. It taught the Wehrmacht the oldest lesson in warfare, the one every empire eventually forgets. Never, ever laugh at the man who has nothing left to lose. Fade to black on the desert wind, carrying away the last curl of smoke from a battlefield where the underdog bit the throat out of the wolf, and the world would never forget the taste of its blood.